And a good morning to you. Welcome inside the Bottom Line here on Tuesday morning. Cool this morning, 29
good.
degrees. It feels great outside.
I take us all year.
Feels great outside. Yeah, I like it.
40 in the morning and 62, 65 in the afternoon.
Yeah,
and I'm calling it a life right there.
I can deal with that.
That's
I can deal with that. That's
and I know people love
nice
80s and 90s and 70s and all that, but 70s are okay. But I got to tell you, Lane,
I'm a
function at 40 to 65 range.
I'll take 40 to 80.
Right.
You start getting much over 80, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I want it below 70.
Yeah. I don't.
I like just enough to wear
that.
the sweatshirt and take it off, put it back on. You know, it's cool.
Well, I hear me coming out on another speaker. Let me take care of that right quick.
I could listen to that.
I'm asleep at the wheel here.
I could listen to that. That's all right.
Oh, me. I got to get things going. Yesterday was kind of a long day, but we're good now. Everything's good.
Yeah, man.
It's all positive. Today's a cubby day.
Yeah.
Going to see my cubby today.
Fantastic. How's Big Guy doing?
He's doing good.
How's Wes?
He's doing good. He said he may be a little bit late when we get there. Mm-hmm. He goes on, I don't know if you tell me Tuesday and Thursdays or just Tuesdays. He goes to therapy. You know, he's a big man.
Oh, yeah.
He goes and gets stretched out. Hips.
Can you do that?
I'm anything you pay for. I mean, you know, it's not that expensive.
Can you? Yeah. Okay. Because I'm as tight as a chain, like a, you know. I mean, you pull a chain, you're like, go. That's about as far
I'm
as
that way.
But I've been that way since I was a kid, man.
I know. I'm that way. I've always been that way.
You know, and Chad, you know, if Chad's listening, Mullis, right? You know, he and I grew up, you know, really together and then playing the ball against each other and everything. But what's so funny is you know, when you're playing ball and you're real tight, you don't feel it. It's like when I stretch at first base, I could almost do a split. But once I caught the ball, dude, I was dying. I couldn't get back up, right? You know, like if you asked me to do that now, or I mean even back then, right, there's no way.
I've never.
But playing the game, and Chad, I tell you what, that dude was pretty flexible too.
Flexibility was never one of my things.
Yeah,
okay, just never was. That's why I've always said one of the reasons that I did not excel in baseball. I didn't have the fluidity from being stretched.
Okay.
The arm motion, that kind of thing, and the swing. I never had
tight.
And the same thing with golf. That's why, you know, people are like, God, you should hit it
pretty good.
You should hit it 1,000,000 yards, and I'm like, I can't because I'm stiff.
Dude, you're pretty
good. And
it doesn't
matter how much I do it, and it hadn't got any better. I honestly thought of this was a few years back. I haven't thought of it lately. But I had thought about taking, there's a guy here in Maiden. I had him as a student. He's an older student when I was teaching at CVCC. And he has a karate school. And I had thought about doing that just for the flexibility side of it. Because you do a lot of stretching and different things, you know. And I guess you could get the same thing out of yoga, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You do. And what's interesting is Jr. You know, we were talking about my younger brother earlier. His wife did hot yoga, right? You know where
I remember that
they would go in where the simulators are in the lab now, and that room's pretty well like blocked off and isolated, and you can crank up the heat in that thing. I had every intention of trying that one time, and just couldn't ever make it up there, but. It's something about movement in the heat, movement in the cold, and there's a lot of talk about that now with a lot of these, especially for athletes and then older, athletes that are now retired athletes, from playing the games, right, about moving your body and shocking your body. They say the first thing you do, like when you tell an elderly person, sit down, relax, then they start to die. You got like telling grandma to stay inside, stay comfortable, things like that. Get her outside. They're saying, exposed to temperatures. I mean, not for hours on it. I'm talking about, a few minutes, but like jumping in the pool in the winter, things like that. I tell you, Lane, I started doing that this year. It has changed my life. Now, it's cold, but it has changed my life as far as like the way I feel and just the shock and awe of things. It's incredible.
Now that I'm quote unquote semi-retired, I haven't changed what I do. It's just I don't have the stress element part of it that I have to go somewhere or be somewhere.
Right.
I enjoy getting up. I enjoy doing things. Like I still pick and choose the things that I want to do. For example, I do my own yard, okay, mow and trim. But when I did the first mowing, I have somebody that comes and takes care of my beds. They spray for weeds. They do my mulching and that kind of thing. But I have the first mowing for this year, because of winter and because I got trees, there was little limbs and branches and stuff all over the yard. So the guy that comes and did my spraying for me, I had him mow it the first time, clean my yard up good. So I still pick and choose the things that I want to do. My wife said she loves yoga. Hot yoga is great. Yeah. There's a new place coming in the Valley Hills Mall called a bungee class. And I guess that'll be a stretching kind of thing. Oh, my God. My wife and what she watches. She watches Kelly and Mark. Mark Consuelos swears by ice baths.
Oh, it's true. I'm telling you, it's the craziest thing in the world. And the first time you do it, you really think you're going to die. But it is, Lenny, I got to tell you, staying in there anywhere from when it's really cold, that water like 29, and people say, no, it should be frozen. No, it's moving.
It's moving, so it can't freeze.
Yeah, anywhere between 29 and like 33 degrees is like awful. Like it can really mess you up. But once you get used to it and you can stay in there for like just 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and then the ideal temperature is 50 degrees and staying in for, 3 to 8 minutes like that, right? Just how you can do it. If you do that for 11 minutes a week, and that's the research right now, and saying that if you'll do this for 11 minutes a week or more, it'll enhance like blood flow and open up and keep your arteries from, even collapsing more. As we get older, just natural things. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's good stuff. And I noticed a lot of the athletes, like the NFL athletes and even skiers. At Stiefel, we sponsor, ski, several skiers, right? They do these things on a regular basis, for recovery and rejuvenation, than they do just because you're trying to go in there and freeze the muscle. It just gets blood flowing. They like saunas, all these things that you can do. It's really neat. And, speaking of which, the older Russell Wilson gets, probably the more he's going to be doing this.
Well, all athletes are like that. Richie said he had a nice cold walk with the dogs this morning. He said there's a place here in Greenwood called the Stretch Zone. They do a more passive stretching with you, which means they are the ones doing most of the pushing to help you stretch.
Oh, that's cool.
That's the thing that I would need, because that kind of –
I need somebody doing that
If you don't exceed what you think you can do, you're not doing it any good. That's the whole purpose in stretching, is to stretch just a little bit more than you think you can, so that the next time you come back, you're getting past that point and a little bit further. You have to be able to do that.
Yeah, mine, I'd just like to have two vehicles and just drive a little slow this way. Just it being funny, of course.
I know somebody.
Anything that would just.
I know somebody that could do that and does that as a service. Well, I'm afraid she'd hurt me. Audra, I'm sure she can stretch you.
Yeah, well,
now
I will tell you this. When I had one of the, when she first started doing it, I said, hey, do a training. I want to do this. Mm-hmm. I said, now I'm beat up, I'm old, but I want you to take me through. She stretched me for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And Laney, it almost killed me. I had on my iWatch, I burned like 790, like 800, calories. During that, it was awful.
Because your muscles.
But when I got up,
yeah.
Dude, she had me doing agilities. Now I was like 47, 48. I'm 51 now. Dude, I feel like I was like 18 years old again after she said, you wake your body up. This is what I was like. Audrey, I hadn't been able to move for like 10 years.
Yeah.
My back hurts, my knees hurt.
Everything hurts.
Just crazy stuff. And she's like, I'm telling you, if you do this, but it was excruciating.
And the hard part is getting started.
Yeah.
If you get started and stay with it, I'm a very big believer. I have nothing against medical doctors, none whatsoever, but I'm a very big believer on some of the stuff on the quote-unquote holistic side, very, very big in the chiropractors, and very, very big into massage therapy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's unbelievable how they'll work muscles that are so tight.
Yeah.
And once they work them and you kind of get that blood flowing again, but you got to stay after it. It's not one of those things you can do and then forget about it for 6 months.
Well, Wes, Dr. Carwell that we play golf with, he comes and meets us, right? Plays Wes. He had Carwell Chiropractic in Hickory, and I went to him for like 27, 30 years, whatever it was. And he kept me upright that long, and it was truly amazing some of the things he would do. And, we got to the point where I had some issues with swelling in my, just inflammation in my back. He's like, you know what, just go get a shot. Let's go get a shot. Go call the guys over there, at the, I think it was
Pain Management.
Emerge Ortho, which they did all my knee surgery and everything.
Right.
He's like, just, go over there, let them give you a shot in the back down there and show them what's going on, and, it'll clear the inflammation out. He's like, now, should you do that a lot? And not really, but just go get one. Well, you know what? He was right. It started getting the inflammation out. Now I don't have any issues with that. There's a chronic L5 in the back, right? But all the, when you watch these former athletes, they talk about all the injuries and everything they had. They all know that playing whatever sport they're doing, that's the risk that you run and the trade-off that you have. And there's going to be injury, and of course there's been a lot of lawsuits over things, especially with, the brain and things like that. But I got to tell you, we all know what we're getting into. We may not know the severity of it, but if we really cared, we wouldn't do it. So, as bad as some things are, everything that happens to us, regardless of what it is, our fault. And if we take extreme ownership of things, then we become more aware.
I'm not convinced.
We don't become passive. We become more aware when we take extreme ownership.
I'm not convinced that the things that I feel now, with my body, would have been really that much different had I never played sports.
Yeah.
Because you get old and things kind of go through it.
It would be drastically different.
Let's see.
And plus,
Steven,
we're married to maiden girls, so they're pretty tough.
Adam, good morning.
Give you a little bit of.
Adam says a lot of athletes do Pilates as well.
They do. He's right. Who said that?
Adam.
Yeah, absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Let's see. Something else.
Oh, Richie, I can barely say because
turmeric.
Turmeric.
Yeah,
it helps.
And cayenne pepper too.
Yeah, I take both of those, and I basically just drink them, and then of course I apply the turmeric as well. I've got several forms of that. But I got to tell you, man, they got these big things, and you can put that stuff on pizza, and you can't taste it. So it's like you put that on your pizza, then you put the.
I'm going to pass.
No, I'm just giving an example.
I know.
But no, it's really good for you. And Richie's right. I mean, there's so many neat things that they can do with homeopathic stuff. You know what else I found out? Castor oil.
Yeah.
I put that
you
on
told
my
me
head
it's the
for
wonder
like
drug.
2 weeks. My hair started growing back. I was like,
I'll tell you, the other thing
like,
from a joint standpoint and bee stings, when I was growing up, we used to have a thing that would come around. You had a lot of door-to-door salesmen.
Right.
There was the Standard Coffee Man. There was the Charlie Chip Man. But there was also the Raleigh's man. Raleigh's liniment.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my gosh. You talk about taking a sting out of a bee sting. Now, it would. Now, the other thing that would take it out is if you knew somebody was chewing tobacco.
My dad.
Yeah. They just rub a little bit. My neighbor across the street, older fella, he was always had a dip in. If I'd get stung, go over there and he'd put a little of that. Boy, that knocked it right
Dad
out.
always chewed a cigar. Like my dad never smoked a cigar, but he chewed one. Now he even did
Wes
this
does a lot of that too.
Well, he even did this while he's
Dr.
teaching.
Wes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Dr. Carwell. Oh, yeah, he does. Dad would always chew it, even when he's teaching. He'd just take it, bite it off, and stick it in his pocket. That was one of the things that kids, I say kids, they're all my age and, whatever, older now, but they would talk about that. Dad do that, because he taught science or whatever, and they were in the lab and, always doing, stuff like that. But there were several kids at Fred T. Ford over the years that, were outside, got bee stung or whatever. And as soon as they did, they go see Dad. Mm-hmm. He'd take it out right.
Oh, yeah.
And the print, what's really cool is Charlie Wyant was Dad's principal for a long time. I think Coach McCree was too, for a little while. But the thing about effective management, especially with Coach McCree and Mr. Wyant, right? You got to know when somebody's breaking the rules intentionally versus somebody that is kind of doing what they do. And there's benefit behind it, so you it's not that you really turn a blind eye to things that are against rules and regulations, but you understand of what is penetrating, that line, right? What's really trying to get over that line, step over to any of that. But I thought that, and Coach McCree, Mike McCree, he was our assistant principal at Maiden when I was there. It's probably the best, 5 or 6 months. Me and Michael Wine, of course, but just learning from them and watching how they, did what they did, the conversation they had, how they interact with people is incredible. And, there's a lot there was a lot of our athletes that, their parents knew Coach McCree or their uncles or dad, grandparents, whatever, when he played. And there was just, having that in a community is really important for multiple reasons. It's kind of like, you being at West Lincoln, Coach Tom Sane, David Avery now, David played there. He's now the AD and, of course, coaches football and wrestling and all these things. And even Alan Chapman, even though he's not from there, he technically is now, right? You know what I'm saying? And there's more that has more to do with growth and development than you can imagine,
You do know where Chapman's from originally.
Starmount.
Davie County.
Oh, Davie County. Well,
Davie County.
I'm sorry. Yeah. My roommate in college played Legion ball with Alan.
Okay.
Starmount came down to play with Davie County. My roommate was from Starmount. He was Chad Triplett. He's a quarterback up there, and of course basketball and baseball player. But Alan's a good dude. I've known him a long time.
Me and Chapman did JV football together.
He's a good dude, man.
Yeah, he is. Let me take a break. Be back with more.
Whether it's a sit-down meal or a call-in for the drive-thru, Brookwood Cafe and Catering is the answer. A variety of meats, vegetables, and desserts cooked daily, or a hot sandwich from the grill, they have what you're looking for to satisfy your taste buds. If you need catering from 5 to 500, Brookwood has you covered as well. Stop by Brookwood Cafe and Catering at 202 Providence Mill Road in Maiden. Don't forget breakfast daily till 11 a.m. Open Tuesday 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., Wednesday through Saturday 6 a.m. till 8 p.m., and Sunday from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Call 828-428-8944 to place your order today.
If you ask around, you'll find Burke Mortuary has a reputation for excellence and commitment to value. They've built a reputation of trust for more than 35 years. Burke Mortuary is proud to offer personal attention, meaningful tributes, and the area's most affordable prices. They're also proud to offer you beautiful, state-of-the-art facilities. It's the perfect place to honor your loved one. So when choosing a funeral home, the choice is easy. Choose Burke Mortuary with locations in Maiden and Newton.
Covenant Church began as a vision of just over 100 people in 1984. Since then, Covenant Church has grown and currently located at 2168 Gastonia Highway in Lincoln. The Sunday schedule includes early morning worship at 8:30, Sunday school at 9:45, and morning worship at 10:45. Their ministries extend beyond Sunday. Visit their website at www.covenantchurch.church to see all they have to offer, and better yet, stop by and see for yourself. Covenant Church may be just what you're looking for a new church home. First Federal Savings Bank has been serving Lincoln County since 1940. And as it has been from the beginning, customer service is a priority to First Federal Savings Bank. They want to get to know you by name. First Federal Savings Bank has the convenience, the products, and the services that the larger banks have, but with hometown people that you see throughout your community. Stop in and visit one of their 4 convenient locations and see what First Federal Savings Bank has to offer you. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Untangling your headphones, finding the right remote, saying goodbye to your favorite shirt that hasn't fit in 10 years. Why are simple things sometimes so complicated? Thankfully, with Auto Owners, insurance doesn't have to be one of them. Auto Owners works with independent agents who live in your community and answer when you call, so you can worry about more important things, like finding a new favorite shirt. That's simple human sense.
Call Mooney Insurance in Maiden or East Lincoln Insurance in Denver or visit mooneyinsurance.com. Have you thought about when you would like to retire? One of your major assets is planning for retirement is time, and you lose a little of it each day. The longer you wait to start accumulating capital for retirement, the harder it's going to be. How should you plan for retirement? Start by calculating approximately how much capital you will need at retirement, and then estimate how much you will have to put away each year. Finally, carefully choose the investments in which you will invest. Stiefel Nicholas can assist you. Call 4 Rembert today at 828-624-7300. Stiefel Nicholas, member SIPC, and the New York Stock Exchange.
Welcome back. Glad to have you here this morning. I noticed something that on Facebook this morning.
What's that?
Steve Peeler.
Yep.
He has retired.
Yeah, I saw that. I sent him a message last night. Good
And
dude, man.
I didn't see it till this morning. And I think he had did he have a knee replacement or an ACL? I can't remember exactly. He went through some therapy, had a surgery, and I guess it was just that time.
They found a couple things too, and he decided that's
Yeah.
You know what? He's
Call
been
it a
doing
career.
this long enough, and I'm good.
Yeah, call it a career.
But it was cool, man. I mean, he did a lot, and he got to see a lot. He got to hang out. He got a ball signed. Dale Murphy put a ball on his desk.
Yeah.
Signed it. Incredible.
Yeah.
Good
Let me back on up here. Let's see. Reggie said, I have a cocktail. Yeah. First thing in the morning, 8 ounces of water with a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar
Yep.
and a good dash of cayenne pepper.
Yep. I had lemon juice to mine. I do it every morning.
There is another thing, and I'm trying to remember if it's for appetite, but cinnamon is another.
Oh, appetite, blood sugar,
Okay.
any of that stuff. And what's interesting is, like, we got all these essential oils and everything that we started looking at and doing.
Yeah.
And like tea tree oil and things like that, like if you have like a athlete's foot or, anything like itchy feet or whatever, it's tea tree oil, which is Maluka, is really good for that. You got these sprays and everything you use, but I found a lot of these remedies laying here are good. They got stuff like Digest Zen, so you put a little bit on your tongue after you eat or whatever, and of course peppermint and all these things. It's pretty cool, man. It's neat. We like it.
Jeff Taylor, he brings us back to reality here just a little bit. Said, take any remedy you want, but Father Time always wins. The older you get, the more the check engine light comes on.
Well, I tell you what, that sucker
That is
stays
dead
on,
on, boy.
Hey, that's a great analogy. I use it, the check engine light.
Yeah.
That's good. Thanks,
Yeah,
Jeff.
that's one of them
That's awesome,
slow
dude.
down things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
One
very
of them
much.
slow down things. My wife said just saw where Toby Keith is one of the 2024 Country Music Hall of Fame inductees. Yeah. Let's see. What else did I have? I had something else I was thinking about.
We'll stick a boot in. Yeah, that guy's amazing.
I guess let me check a few headlines here this morning. Anybody that listens to WLON, the AM station is back on the air. We had some damage when those storms came through back in February, late January. It did a little bit of damage, and we could either keep the AM on the air or the FM on the air till we got parts, and I said I want to do the FM. So that's what we kept on the air, but Mike was able to get the AM back on the air last night, so we're back up to full power, which is really, really good.
Good.
High school baseball gets started next week on WLON. We'll cover – we got 5 games scheduled, plus we do so many games during the playoffs because they play so many times, when you get to that.
Let me think with Cherville this summer.
Legion.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do Legion. We would kind of split it with Lincoln, but they haven't been able to keep a team.
Right.
I mean, Bruce does a great job with them, but hadn't been able to keep anything.
They're not having one this year.
Are they not? Is that official?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you this question. I couldn't get our dear friend, Juju Phillips last night to be honest and forthright.
What?
Well,
about what?
About those Steelers.
All right, go ahead.
He likes the Russell Wilson move,
but remember, remember what he said 2 weeks ago.
I know.
3 weeks ago.
I know.
There's not, but I'm not criticizing. What I'm saying is, I think a lot of people saw the Justin Fields thing coming, but the Russell Wilson.
Oh, I didn't see it coming.
I don't think and there was like grumblings about it, and when somebody brought it up, he's like, "No way, he doesn't fit the mold." Whatever. But see, I think Tomlin's trying to actually build the quarterback position from within by bringing in Wilson and Justin Fields. He believes in Fields.
You know what they say? If you got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have a quarterback. He has no commitment with either one at this point.
Who?
Tomlin. I mean, they guaranteed Russ the start. That's how he came and played for $1 million.
Absolutely.
Okay, I get that. I get that.
Yeah, sure.
But he's 35. That's not a long-term answer.
No, not at all. It's a transition.
But is that transition going to be to Justin Fields, who did not make it under a former defensive head coach?
Well, no, this is the problem. It's all about who works with you offensively. And people can say what they want to about him and Trubisky and everybody else that play. When you don't have consistent Baker Mayfield, when you don't have and when you don't have someone that is there to guide you, to help to be consistent, especially at that position, you cannot go in and change everything in terminology every year or two and expect anybody, to be successful. You can't do that because they're always relearning. Mm-hmm. They're not able to apply what they've learned. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, this is the problem the Steelers have had. First of all, we don't want to throw the ball down the middle of the field. We don't want to stretch the field. We want to run. I love the running game. But you got to be able to throw the ball. You got to be able to throw the skinny post, the quick slants, the dig routes.
If there's no threat of you throwing the ball down the field, you can't run the ball.
Well, that's my point. They load the box with an extra outside linebacker / fifth, a dime package, with 6 DBs. They'll load the box with 2 extra DBs and come get you, right? There's just so many different things that are available to a defense when an offense does not stretch the field, especially in the middle of the field, Laney. It's like chess. You don't win the game in chess or checkers controlling the outside of the board. You do it through motor grading the inside of the board, okay? It's no different in football. It's no different in basketball. You don't win on the outside in basketball. People say, yeah, but you get a 3-point shot. Listen, man, you don't hit 60%, all right, consistently. Maybe you do if you're state, in a one-game thing. But over time, no. Can't do it. Same thing in football. You've got to attack between the tackles, and you've said that multiple times.
Yeah.
Motor graders, get the ball in the middle.
But the other part, the other thing that you have to do that is not happening is you got to be willing to loosen up that offensive game.
Yes.
Now, does it change because maybe now Tomlin has more confidence in Russ?
Well, he's what he is. He's an extremely intelligent, tested player.
Yes.
It's not, and people can. This is arguable, okay, and people may agree that's fine. Kenny Pickett was not a bad choice for the Steelers. He was a bad choice for the stuff they had surrounding him, and I'm not talking about players when he came in. Now Wilson can kind of get away from all that because the experience is there and they're not having to teach him. He already knows. So now you got somebody that comes in, and is able to pass this knowledge and be in the film room. Listen, Justin Fields' greatest asset is he's not going to be on the field this year.
Right.
That's his greatest asset right now. You say, well, he's a football player. Listen, sometimes you need to pause, especially when been thrown in the fire. Let's get back out. Let's get healed up. Let's reflect a little bit. Let's learn, okay, especially from a guy that's been as successful as Wilson has.
Provided Fields has that same mentality.
He has to.
Okay? And I think that's where Kenny Pickett did not have that mentality. He wasn't going to sit and learn from somebody.
Well, but the situation, and you've talked about this a lot, it was drastically different. They felt like they had to get somebody in and play them right now. Mm-hmm. That is not what you do. All right? And we've seen some of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history that have come in and had to wait a year, maybe 2, whatever. But then all of a sudden, they know now what not to do, and each game they're able to use application and along with, failure, but application of what they've learned and how to control and manage a game.
Where was Justin Fields out of college?
He played Ohio State, didn't he?
That's what I was thinking. And,
yeah, I mean,
and the other thing, and this is fact, okay? This is fact. Ohio State quarterbacks, Alabama quarterbacks, they probably have a better quote-unquote NFL-type system around them, maybe not running the system, but I'm talking about personnel, than probably any other college football team in the nation because of all the talent. So when they get to the NFL and they're on a low-performing team, they don't have that same offensive line. They don't have those same weapons to throw
What's
to.
relative to your competition, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So it's hard for them to make that adjustment because they've never faced that type of adversity.
Well, we talk about, so-and-so's a dual-threat quarterback. Well, we can try to push this narrative all we want and everything. The bottom line is, you can't be consistent and win championships being a dual threat. Well, Patrick Mahomes runs – no, he doesn't. No. He pulls the ball down and takes what's given to him. It's not part of the game. He extends the game by doing that, right? It's not a called play for, Mahomes to run out there, act like he's going to throw it deep, then tuck the ball and run.
Right.
That's just instinct, okay?
Right.
That's not trying to apply athleticism. The problem, again, I can't say this enough, all right? And, everything we talk about is arguable. People have opinions. But until you show me where both defensive ends, outside line, whatever you want to call them, rush ends, all right, are not as fast as the quarterback. Okay, and you say, well, Lamar Jackson, what was he at home watching the Super Bowl like the rest of us? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, so don't even throw that out there. I don't want to hear that crap, okay? Justin Fields the same way. He is incredibly athletic. But again, the quarterback position in the NFL – yes, you need to be athletic. People say, well, Brady wasn't. Yes, he was. He got drafted out of high school as a baseball player. Yes, he is. He just doesn't move in the athletic sense that from a speed and quickness standpoint. It's from an instinctive standpoint, right? Okay? You cannot do that in the NFL, Lanny. You can't do it consistently. They can try to change the narrative and do all this, but the truth of the matter is, as long as the most defensive ends, rush ends, outside linebackers are faster than your quarterbacks and running backs, it ain't going to work, okay? It's not. So, quit trying to reinvent the game, being cute, get you a really good power running back, get you a scat back, okay, that can catch the ball.
Got to some way to neutralize that.
Okay? Be smart as a head coach and not, go away from your other weapons, just keep feeding it because that's what the Chiefs want you. I'm sorry, I can't go off on that right now. But understand what the position is made to do. It's not a playmaking dynamic position. You can try to make it in high school like that, but it's not the same thing.
But that's because there's such a difference in the level of talent that you're facing.
It's the same thing to your point just a minute ago about quarterbacks, Ohio State, Alabama.
Right.
Listen, A.J. McCarron never got an opportunity, okay, just like Mason Rudolph never got one, okay? They say, well, yeah, but they're not good, and they throw in. You don't know that. They haven't been given the opportunity like the other players. Say, well, yeah, but they can judge talent. Really? How many number one picks or first-round picks have they missed on quarterbacks?
Yeah,
how many?
A lot.
So don't tell me anything about, well, they can judge talent. They're doing their job. Look, no. It's about the process. And until they stop with the wow factor and make a splash, Sonny, and all this stuff, then you're going to get the same thing. That's why them picking, quarterback number one, this poor kid out of USC is going to go there, and he's going to – I hope he's extremely successful. But it ain't going to happen.
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Richie brings a good point up here. He said Fields went from a top 5 draft pick, to basically a 6th-round pick because of what the Bears did to him and the environment that he went into.
I mean, he can only do what he can do, and you only know what you know. We can criticize people about, well, you should have done this. Listen, people only do, now they can do things intentionally, but there's nothing intentional here about trying to fail or not be the best you can be in the NFL. It's just you have a bunch of CEOs on every team playing at every position. They are the best at what they do. Then you got to go up against that. He's not going up against a kid that, kind of looks at you and, says, well, I'm really fast, so they're going to pay me a lot of money, and, I'm just going to run around out here and make some plays. And, no, in the NFL, they all watch film. They get up at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning. They're already working out. They're already there watching film. Some have already been there 2 or 3 hours watching game film, and then they go work out. Then they train. They are master craftsmen at what they do. That's the difference. They just don't go play.
Yeah.
Okay, they are all CEOs in their position.
Yep.
And what you got to understand is this stuff about, well, this kid's got an arm and he can run it. It don't matter. He's not a CEO. He's still learning. He's the assistant executive chief officer, okay? Mm-hmm. He ain't ready. I don't care.
Yep.
I don't care, Lane. He ain't ready.
Well, that's where they don't.
None of them are.
Steven said he likes the moves the Steelers made. I like the moves the Steelers have made. I just don't see enough move to get them over the hump. Now, will Russell give him another couple wins? Yeah, but I don't think he's a quarterback that takes them to the next level.
What he does, this is the thing. He can take them to where they are, which is just mediocre, and I say that. Well, they've never had a losing season. I don't know if that's really the big deal. I mean, I guess it is to some people that want to beat their chest, say, well, we've always done this, and this is what – no, the highest levels of Super Bowl, what are you doing? All right, that's it. Right. That's it. You can talk about playing in your little pond and your sandbox.
Right.
No. You either go win it all or shut. I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
But this is the thing. What we always have to remember is this: you're never criticized by someone that's doing more than you, right? Mm-hmm. Unless that person's already been there and done that, okay, and is trying to offer constructive, critical feedback to make things better, the program better. So very rarely does that happen, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing is you can't base success on, well, this is what we do every year. You can't do that because it's epic failure in the end. Mm-hmm. Well, how can you, if we won these championships, how can you? No. What is the highest thing that you can play for?
Championship.
Right. And if you don't, you're selling yourself short and you're selling the people around you short.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and people that are not high achievers or just like to be comfortable, and playing their own little whatever, like a lot of Steeler fans, okay, are just comfortable saying, well, we've not had a losing season this long. I don't know what the hell that means.
Stephen, you're exactly right. It's just, is Fields willing to do that?
Yes,
which is Fields could learn a lot from Wilson.
Yes, he is.
If he understands that concept, they'll be fine. Richie says, goes back to why you just draft the best player possible instead of drafting the best player to fit your system and needs. I go the other way with that one, Richie. I just, if you can't spend a draft pick on a position that you've already got a better player in that same position.
I know what Richie's saying.
Yeah, I know.
From a process standpoint,
right.
The thing about it is that is a really good rule to go by, but what we have to remember,
as long as you don't overreach.
That's what I'm saying. It's not applicable in every situation. Which I mean, obviously Richie would agree with that. But what I'm saying is that's the difference between doing that all the time and then having that focus on the best player on the board, best player on the board. When you get to the lower rounds, you can do that.
Right.
In the upper rounds, I think you really got
1 and 2. I don't think you can.
Yeah,
do that.
and guys and ladies, listening, whoever, I really feel like and really think that the draft has got to get more offensive linemen, tight ends, corners, okay, those type of players, all right, in the early rounds, than trading a quarterback 2 years later because they didn't work out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot less that you have to learn interiorly, all right, from a schematic standpoint, because you have a lot of the same rules with different plays. You don't have that when you play quarterback.
But players not making it, that is a position, when you talk about quarterback, you talk about a high draft pick, that is a position that you have got to be – it's got to be a compromise on both sides. You can't bring a quarterback in, and I'll give you the best example. Frank Reich and Bryce Young, those two did not fit each other. They tried to force the round peg in a square hole. Bryce Young couldn't be the quarterback designed for Frank Reich's system, okay? Frank Reich wasn't going to change. Bryce Young couldn't do it because it's not the type of quarterback and athlete he is. So there has to be a compromise. You have to be willing to adjust on both sides, and you have to be willing to honestly evaluate the player you're getting and say, I can't make him work in my system. I'm going to have to change my system, or you go with a different player. I think that's where I still think Bryce Young can be a franchise quarterback. Is he a 12-year franchise Super Bowl competing quarterback? I'm not sure. Jury's still out on that. But I don't think he was put in a situation just like Baker Mayfield his first years, just like Justin Fields on his first years. He was not put into a situation that would allow him to be successful because he didn't have that exact skill set needed to do the things that they were trying to accomplish with their system.
That's right.
When you talk about high schools and high school football, we talk about this all the time. A high school team, because you really don't know what you're getting till the next year and these kids develop, You have to be willing to modify and change what you're doing to best utilize the talents and skills that those kids bring to the table. I don't think that's just a high school thing. I think that's all the way up. The only place that I can see that doesn't always completely apply is college football, because you're able to go out and recruit kids
you bring in
to
for that.
fill those positions.
Yeah.
In the pros, you say, well, you got to draft. Well, there may not be kids there that can fill that position.
Yeah.
So you've got to make some modifications.
That's very true.
So
That's
I think it's a two-way street where you've got to be willing to say, look, I've got to make some changes on what I do. You're going to have to make some changes on what you're going to do, but it's not something where you can just throw them into the fire. It's a process. As you said, it's a process.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And they got to be able to do that. Link was saying this when you were talking about it, that kids being drafted get so much money they don't have a need to do more. And I think some of them are like that. Like you said, I'm going to get my money because I can run and I can do this, and you find that it doesn't always work out. Kim said Justin Fields was on that same Netflix show that Spencer Rattler was on about quarterbacks or football players who tend to be in trouble, and they got to send them to universities to train them. And that's right. There are kids that have a ton of talent, but they're not quite there. They've got to have some specialized work. Steven said, looking forward to seeing Green Bay and Detroit this season. They have built through the draft with some good trades over the years. Green Bay was the youngest team in the NFL last year, and Love was given the time to develop. Well, Love was given the time to develop because they couldn't do anything with Aaron Rodgers. But I think you saw that the process that Green Bay's coaching staff had in place with the right personnel would work. And that goes back, there was not a compromise there. Too many players have said over and over that whatever play came in, that didn't mean that Aaron was going to run it.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
And Aaron was going to run.
I don't blame him at all. I don't blame him at all. You know, I just think that you'll see next year Green Bay will not be near as effective because people have film on them now. They didn't know what they were getting into this year. They've got 16, 18 games, 19 games that they can watch. And, they can see what Jordan Love can do. They're going to take the top two things he can do. They're going to try to eliminate that, let him do other things to, whatever.
Beat me on something I know that you're not as good at.
That's what's going to happen. You couldn't do that with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The reason they couldn't win, at Green Bay consistently is number one, their defense let them down. They didn't draft at all. They got rid of receivers that, he needed. They never drafted. Basically offensive line was pretty good. They could score at will, pretty much. They just couldn't stop anybody. And their special teams, were not the best either. Mm-hmm. They didn't build anything around him. It's real easy, and for me, you, any of us, to blame one person for the lack of success, when the fact is you put somebody at head coach that has absolutely zero head coaching experience and is a play caller. So not only do they have to run the organization from that standpoint and administer things, all right, they also have to oversee everything. When you have to do both of those things, when you have to administer and oversee, you miss things, all right? So you have to decide as a head coach, am I going to administer things and miss some things, or am I going to oversee everything and have input on what we're doing, all right? Joe Glass at Hickory is a great example of this. All right, Joe is the head coach at Hickory. He has an offensive coordinator. He's got a defensive coordinator, all right? Yes, he says, hey, let's punt, let's go for it. He allows his assistants to have input on that, when they're all talking about it, but he makes the final decision. Mm-hmm. But he also knew when to get out of the way. He said, we've gotten here this far. I want to know what's going on, but I want y'all to handle it. And that's indicative of, the quarterback play that they had. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've known that kid since he was about 2, okay? Mm-hmm. He is the right person, but you have the right head coach in place to allow everybody's attributes and things they bring to the table to flourish while he is controlling the discipline side of it. I'm not against Matt LaFleur. I think he does a really good job, and I think that he's done some great things. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you put a head coach, offensive head coach, with a guy that is basically older than you are and been coaching longer than you have. I mean, playing longer than you've been coaching. I think that's a bad move, because then there's not, I'm the head coach, you're going to do what. Mm-hmm. There's too much input that's not balanced. You know, Cowher was really good for Roethlisberger. All right? He was really good for him. Jerome Bettis. Everything flipped at Green Bay. Everything.
Jonathan Farthing said, no, Bryce Young had a tough start. I don't think he had the right weapons available. That's obvious. Andrew said,
we all agree. Jonathan's right.
Andrew said,
100%.
I don't think the Packers saved Love because they couldn't get rid of Rodgers. If they were trying to get rid of Rodgers, they're complete idiots because he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy, you know, that I think they were just ready to move on. And you know, and that's okay. But for people, you know, for the organization not to build around that's he's a generational quarterback. Right. You know, and he's outspoken. You know, and he says things that a lot of people don't like because it's the truth. You know, we like to hear what makes us feel good instead of saying, you know what, this is the truth.
Well, here's another one. The Commanders.
God.
They have been going after defense in free agency so far. They traded Howe to Seattle. I saw that. And so I'm wondering what they're going to do. I'm not sure they know what they're going to do,
well,
Richie, just to be honest.
Let's blame Daniel Snyder for everything because that's the problem, okay? And then all of a sudden he sells the team. Yeah, things are going to get better. Let's go. No. First of all, you got all this external stuff coming in saying change your name, do all this. It's not right. You shouldn't do this. When nobody took time to explain the history of how they got the name and how they were given the opportunity to do that initially, right? So we're going to bypass that because, you know, some people don't like their feelings getting hurt and things like that because their feelings are more important than reality, right? Which I'm glad we're starting to make that turn the other way now.
Right.
Okay? Because I'm going to tell you this, Lenny. The one thing about Gen Xers, my generation, is we don't give a flip, okay? We don't. We grew up, our parents, you know, I mean, I'm sure they loved us. They really didn't like us a whole lot. You know, we're just, I mean, it is what it is. You know, and to think that we care what other people think and say about us, that is a grave mistake. Because all it does is motivate us even more to do what we feel is the right thing.
Right.
So what's going to happen now is all these, you know, younger generation, older generation, they've awakened the Gen Xers. Shouldn't have done that. That's not good. Because we come in and say, nope, this is the way we're going to do it. Well, I don't like that. I feel like it doesn't matter what you like. This is what we're freaking doing.
And that's where some of these coaches are talking about. They're in that age group.
That's what I'm saying, man. And you know, there's nothing wrong with mixing generations. We all got to be able to get along. But the thing about it is you can't have too many feelings and you can't be too much of a hard butt, right?
Yeah.
You got to have that mix. Well, while we're the sandwich generation, we're taking care of our kids, we're taking care of, you know, our parents and grandparents and things like that, right? So we're the sandwich generation. You can't put all that on the sandwich generation and expect them to be passive.
Well, it's because
and
everything
now it's happened and it's over. I'm telling you, all this it's starting. It's I'm telling you, you know, Gen X has been really quiet through a lot of these things, and it's now you can forget it. It's happening.
You have to be able to make fair evaluations and not let your feelings get in the way, so that you do what's right overall. The right thing to do.
Yeah, of course.
And that's where Link said college football, college quarterbacks don't call the plays any longer, just have to have someone do that for them. So it's not quite as like it was in the old days when quarterbacks were calling. And I think that's part of the problem in the NFL is some of the transitional things that are going on. Andrew said, honestly, they got rid of Devontae Adams, and that's when the collapse began.
Immediately.
And Richie said they have to work through the mess that Snyder created. I just want to see a competent team on the field. Not sure what stadium they'll be playing in since it won't be FedEx Field.
Well, you know what, to Richie's point, let's start with this. Let's get a quarterback and let's go. How many different people can they draft or sign to come play one position? You know, at some point, why don't you get somebody in there that can manage the game? Stop expecting them to be an all-pro every year. Let them be an all-pro at managing your team. Okay, and managing the game. Quit worrying about, well, he threw for 5,000 yards and he did this. You don't need that. If you got a guy that can power run and you want to spread the field and then go to a 3 tight end set and stick it between the tackles, all right, and you want to have a safety that's a headhunter, 2 corners that will cover, all right, and an inside linebacker like Mike Singletary, you say, well, there's not – no, that has the attributes as far as understanding the game, making the calls, paying attention to what's going on, all right. You can win football games. You can do that. You got to have 2. You got to have at least one good rush in. You got to have a run stopper at the other one. Okay, You got to have 2 corners that can cover. You got to have a safety headhunter. All right, doesn't care if he gets 15 yards, not being dirty, just hitting hard. Okay, that's first. All right, and then an offensive, then a quarterback that can distribute the football, read a defense appropriately, help with the guard and the guard and center as far as calling out blocking assignments. Okay, and then go to your 3 tight end set and run the football up between the tackles. Everything is the wow factor. And what they're realizing is being first ain't being right. Okay? It's not. Just because you post it first on X or on, whatever platform, Instagram, it doesn't make it right. If you spend more screen time than you do developing your game, you got problems.
But don't you think sometimes in the NFL, one of the things that happens, and it depends on what the ownership and management allows a head coach to do, but you have to take that deep dive inside who that team is, where we have strengths, where we have weaknesses, and not having expectations that can't be realized by players that you've got on the field just because this is what you want them to do. You have to make an honest evaluation of who you are, address your needs, and then accentuate the positives that you have, recognize and get rid of the negatives that you have, and start making improvements there instead of saying, well, we're going to do this to cover for that.
Now, I'm not picking on Raheem Morris, but to your point, I like him. I think he's a good dude, and I think he does a good job. But if you got Bill Belichick and Raheem Morris, who are you picking? Yeah. If you have a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to fire all the people in the building, or he might get rid of so-and-so. I mean, what are you talking about? This is the crap that we've had to deal with in Carolina for the last how many years?
But here's the thing. Here's the thing.
I hope they're fixing.
Atlanta made that choice, so they've got to live with whatever choice they made.
So do their fans that they're actually going to spend thousands of dollars a year.
And that's what I'm saying.
Promote it.
That's what I'm saying. You've got to make that honest evaluation of who you are and who you've decided to be, and then deal with the outcome that comes from that.
If you have a company that is going under, or that is already under, you don't bring in. Oh my God, man! Well, Belichick does it. Listen,
but that's what you're saying. You got to be willing to accept the fallout that's going to come from not making the proper decision for your organization.
Or you can expect people to, pretty much do anything and say, "Well, we thought this might work out. We need you to forgive us." How's that worked out the last 4 years for the rest of us? Okay.
Now, to me, if I were Atlanta, the problem that would have bothered me with Belichick coming in is not that he wanted to bring his own people in, because I think you got to have that. Everybody's got to be on the same page. The problem that would have bothered me with Belichick is Atlanta doesn't have what they need from an offensive side. Can he make that adjustment? Yes. Can he bring that in? He wasn't able to do it in New England for whatever reason. And here's the thing. Let me say this about Belichick. And this is from some of the things that I've read. I think towards the end of that relationship, forgive my French, it became a pissing contest, and it wasn't really what – I don't think he was making the best decisions. He was making the decisions that he wanted to make because he wasn't going to back down from what he had accomplished over 20 years. Whether that's right or wrong, I'm not sure. But I think that was the part that would have scared me more. Not his ability to coach, not his ability to lead, but could he let some of the things that he's kind of harbored at New England get out of his way in a new environment?
Yeah,
the changing the building out didn't bother me because that's what you do.
It's a fair question.
You do not bring in a leader and say, well, you got to keep the same staff. Well, obviously the same staff wasn't getting it done. We got to have a wholesale change here.
And the other thing too is anytime you stay somewhere longer than 10, 12, 15
That's
years.
Exactly right.
It just kind of gets, well, this is the status quo. This is what we're doing. So all of a sudden, perceived success becomes basically achievement.
Right.
All right. And, the run, I just really feel like every 10 to 12 years, you've been somewhere, you've done a great job. It's time to roll it over.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. And you're just asking people to invest their time and their money and their emotions and their passions into your organizations, but you're not doing the things that, as an organization, that what you're asking, you're not giving in return.
Yes.
That's the problem I've got. Okay, and we brought in so and so. We feel like it's going to be this way. What if we weren't doing it with Roethlisberger? What are we talking about?
That has been my point.
What are we talking about?
That 10 to 12 years that you're talking about, that's been my point with the Steelers. Right. They couldn't get over that hump. It's time to make some changes and see if we can go in a different direction.
I think, I like Tom.
I do too.
I think he is a great leader of men and of people, okay? Just the whole organization in general, men, women, whatever, whoever. But, I think you get to a point, too, where, when it's time, it's time.
Not only does the Steelers need a fresh start, Tomlin needs a fresh start.
Well, I'm like you. I don't. A lot more to give. Man.
Right. I'm not saying that he can't get it done, but sometimes you got to change that environment. You got to change that scenery, and it's the best for everybody involved. And that's where they can get it. I just think he's a great
leader of people.
I do too. I agree.
I think he's done so many wonderful things for. There's a couple things I disagreed with the national anthem, and things like that. I'm not talking about taking it. I'm talking about staying in the locker room.
Right.
Alejandro's out there. Of course, he served and. Tomlin said something about, you should have stayed in with your teammates. Okay. And those are things that are important, but in the grand scheme of things, they work themselves out.
Right.
But Lanny, at some point in our lives, we have to realize when it's up, instead of just hanging on to be hanging on.
That's correct.
All right. And go ahead and make that transition.
And athletes are the same way. Athletes a lot of times don't know when to say when.
People accuse Michael Jordan of that the last several years in his career. That wasn't true because he played 82 games at Washington. Yep. The guy was still playing the game. Now, did he go out when he was at his best? No, but who does?
No.
Who does? Who does other than Barry Sanders?
Yeah.
Who else? That's a fair question.
Yep. No.
So let's don't pinpoint that about, this, that, and the other, right? Bird stayed in till he just couldn't play anymore.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They're competitors. Bird talked about when we got to go. I'm sorry. Bird talked about when Magic retired, how basically had to, right? When he found out he's sick. He said it just took everything out of him.
Yeah.
Talking about Bird. He said I lived
to compete against him
because they were now
bitter rivalries.
They were and they were not always initially the best of friends.
No.
But see, Larry Bird was a guy that would talk just as much junk as anybody else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing that they did was it was in a competitive win nature. So the players on whatever team it was, whoever it was, respected that because they knew that's what it was. And he was a fierce competitor, right? I really like our players in the NFL. I like our younger players a lot. I think they got a lot of good kids coming in. There's a lot to be offered. I think it's really good football. I just think we got to get the coaching situation right. Because what we have, the things that I saw in the Super Bowl this year were, and that's a whole other show, but the coaching side of there's too many things that are being missed. And, it's very easy for somebody to say, well, what does this guy know? Da-da-da. What's it? That's fair. You want to talk about that off the air, we can talk about that all day long, okay? But, it doesn't matter what you're doing in your life, whether it's being a husband, a father, a mom, whatever, wife, whatever you're doing, CEO of a company or, maybe somebody that's just working in janitorial. There has to be a process, and the process has to be respected. Okay, and money, it's kind of like when Jim Leland was basically cussing out Barry Bonds. He was setting the stage and saying, look, I'm the manager. I don't care how much money you make. I'm the manager. You're going to do what I say or you can get your stuff and get out. A lot of people say, well, you can't say that to Barry Bonds. He wasn't disrespecting Barry Bonds. What he was doing was he's saying, look, I'm the coach. This is what we're doing. If I ask you to do this, I'm basically telling you, but I'm being nice by asking you. This is what I want you to do. Because that's the job and the way that things have to work themselves out to be successful.
We're not doing enough of that where whoever's in charge is making the hard decisions and being willing to live with them.
Well, think about this, too. What about the backing?
Yeah, that's
All
what
right,
I'm
you
saying.
see a coach in high school has to make a tough decision about a kid, and basically like, well, you're doing this to me. No, you put me in this situation, and these are the consequences for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is what you say punishment, or this is what, is going to happen if you do these things. Two things. If a coach doesn't stand up to that and follow through with it, they lose respect to the players, number one. All right? And then number two, if the coach does it and he's not backed up by the administration and people decide, well, that's not fair, we're going to put,
right.
let's be more objective and let's, then.
But usually a coach is being objective. He's making that
I'm
evaluation.
talking about the people that are.
I know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, that's why
when
he
a
had to
coach
do
is
it.
usually,
Yeah.
not always, but usually a coach is making that decision based on objective factors that are better for the team as a whole.
Yeah,
Very seldom does it get to be into a personal thing.
yeah,
And when they overrule him, that's when it came into a personal thing because somebody was screaming in the back door.
And chaos.
Yeah.
Chaos ensues. When there's not consistency and expectation.
I agree.
Set, right?
I agree.
Yeah, it's just there's so many things that we got to work on, and this whole thing with the portal in college football, they need to fix that and fix it quick, because what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing out of people is they're starting to lose interest really quick in this, because like, oh, well, just who's the team's going to pay the most out of the best team?
Yeah.
That ain't the way college athletics work, okay? And when you lose people like Nick Saban and you lose Mike Krzyzewski, and you lose all these great mentors of people, okay, because they're having to chase dollars instead of development, then it's going to fall by the wayside. This is not good.
What's going to happen with the whole portal thing is if they don't fix it, there's going to be only a very few that compete on that level, and everybody else is going to go to another level where it's more what they're used to and where they think it should be, which is don't just let them freely-handedly move, don't hand out big checks for NIL,
It's ridiculous.
You're going to get the parity down.
If you're going to play intercollegiate athletics, and it's like Saban and all the coaches said, we're not against players making money. Mm-hmm. That's not what we're against. We're against, what's happening as far as the ability to develop them long-term for life. This is what we got into. If it's different now, that's fine. You can address it, but we're not going to be part of it because we can't do that. You can't do both.
Do you remember what I said from the very beginning before NIL came along? And everybody argued with me. If you're going to do anything, it should be a stipend so that it's equitable for what they're doing. You're not paid to be a professional. It's just something that
They already get them, though.
I know that, but and it's been a long time since I've been involved on that level.
Right.
But I'm just saying that's the only thing that I was looking for.
Well, Laney, too. Golly, sorry. Too. Student athletes, okay, are not employees of.
Correct.
And they can't be.
Correct.
Because then it's not. It's not on now. It's on a professional level instead of an amateur level. Doesn't work that way.
Right.
We already have a league that's professional. We have several leagues. US or UFL starting next week.
Yeah.
You have that in place. You have to go in there and say this is not what we do. And the problem is, this is the other thing. How many people were upset because Arch Manning didn't want to get on, the college, Madden, whatever it is, with that. How many people were upset with that? I can't believe he's not doing it. He said, look, I'm a player on the field, not in the video room, okay?
Yeah.
And he didn't take money for it. And the people were all upset. Why are they upset about what he's doing? Why
Right.
are they worried about it? You know why? Because they're trying to capture the money on their side.
That's correct.
This is unsustainable, all right? It's a get rich quick, all right? And whoever's in. But it's not sustainable long term.
And that's where they're going to see it.
And the problem is it'll work itself out.
Yep.
People are following players now instead of teams. Well, what happens is that lags with fans. Mm-hmm. Now all of a sudden you got this kid that plays at Texas, Quinn Ewers. Mm-hmm. All right, he's going to stay there. Let's just give an example. All of a sudden he says, you know what? I'm going to Georgia. How many Texas fans now become Georgia fans? A lot. Because they're not really Georgia or Texas fans. They're Ewers fans.
They're fair weather fans.
They're following players now
Right.
because that's what they've been programmed to do. You're programming a whole younger generation to not follow your team but to follow the player. Mm-hmm. That is extremely dangerous because the player is not greater than the sum and the whole parts of the team.
Well,
and you can say, yeah, but he's a great player. Nobody's ever argued that. There's always been great players. But there's been a hierarchy in the way things work. Right. And now that's being disrupted, which is fine. Things change. But the consequences that come with it are what people are going to. I can't believe this happened.
Well, be patient, and it, like everything else, will take
You
care
know
of
what?
itself.
I'm becoming very disinterested in it.
Yeah. Well,
Honestly.
you put your focus in a different area that doesn't have those type of distractions.
No, what I'm doing is I'm following LR.
Right.
I'm following
That's
Marshall.
what I'm saying. You do
I'm following my
different
local,
levels
my
that
local
don't play.
colleges.
Yeah.
You know, maybe even a Charlotte now.
Yeah.
Right. Gardner Webb. I'm paying way more attention to them going forward.
Yeah.
Than I am all this other frou-frou stuff.
And that's why
I'm not watching anymore. I'm not paying attention to
That's why I say it'll all work itself out, because the ones that are in it for the money will start going away and they have to change.
You know what I'm more interested in? Watching North Dakota State.
Yeah.
And watching in the
FCS.
championship games.
Yeah.
And watching, basically Division I AA, okay?
Yeah.
And Division II and Division III and NAIA, national champ. I'm more interested in that because, you know why? Because they play.
And
They
that's what
play.
I'm saying. That's where it's going to change.
They play. And it's like watching ACC tournament. There's like 6 kids on on both teams in the championship game. Who was it? Carolina State, I guess. There's like 6 kids out there that have been at say 6 kids, it may have been 5, 4, whatever, but we're been like 2 or 3 different schools. Mm-hmm. What are we talking about?
That's where they're losing the interest.
I'm disinterested in all that.
Yeah.
I don't even care.
How long has it been since you couldn't name starting 5 for the big time programs in college?
It started about 10 years ago, honestly, because of the one and
The
done.
one and done.
But
Yeah.
and people blame Calipari. Listen, he's not to blame. The system is to blame.
He took advantage of the system he was given to play with.
He did exactly what he's supposed to do. He goes and visits the parents. He sits down and says, hey, look, what are your goals long term? We think your son is a great basketball player, a good fit for what we're doing. Mm-hmm. What are your goals long term? Well, he wants to get the NBA. Okay, fine. So if you do your job and I do my job, then these things are likely to work out. He can do that because he can evaluate talent that way. This guy that fought Don Chaney that had never beat Temple, right, when he was at UMass. UMass never beat Temple. They started beating him, and he wasn't arrogant. He's just saying, I'm not backing down. Mm-hmm. People that don't have high achieving standards and are comfortable mistaking arrogance for high achiever that it just won't stop.
Right.
It's a mindset and attitude. It's not an arrogance, right? And that's what that was the sorry. We can just – I know we got to go. Sorry.
But here's the thing. All of that comes back to one thing, making an honest evaluation of who you are, of who the kid you're recruiting is, and being honest and open with those parents. Okay, if that's what you're after, I can help you achieve that. And, going in. Everybody has to be on the same page. See, right now, with the NIL and all the stuff that's going on, everybody's not on the same page. They're just Band-Aiding it.
It's ridiculous.
They're putting stuff out there.
You know what? Going Division II all the way. I'm going to every Mars Hill football game I can go to. I'll go to as many LR games as I can go to. You know what?
Great.
I'm going. I'm going to Gardner. I'm going. I'm done.
It's great.
I'm focusing on the youth league football stuff with the little kids, helping out any way I can. They're not coaching, but helping out any way we can. You know what, dude? It just this is not the stuff that I've been pulling for or watching for. Again, full disclosure, have no issue with kids being compensated for things, but not ridiculously when that's the first thing on their mind.
Right.
Okay. It
takes away from the sport.
Well, it does. I mean, it's why Saban got out. I mean, it was immediately. He wasn't thinking about it all year. Terry, his wife comes to him when they're having recruits over.
Yeah.
Right after the national championship on the Sunday morning when they have them at their house for breakfast. And she goes around, talks to the moms and says, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to help develop them. Mm-hmm. These are resources we got available. She said all they want to talk about is how much money they're getting. Mm-hmm. And she went to Nick and said, what are we doing? Yeah. Why are we doing this? And you know what he said? He said, you're right, I'm quitting. And he quit.
I agree.
So what are we doing?
Well, it will work itself out when you start seeing things crumble, and that's what will happen.
I mean, you know what? The more that this goes on, the more I'm in the Dabo Swinney court.
Well,
the more I'm in it. You know what? I hope he sticks to his guns. I hope he doesn't go do anything outside of what's being allowed. Yeah, and I'm not talking about illegal. I'm talking about the portal thing, all that stuff. I hope he develops within and beats. I hope he does it. I'm more of a fan of his right now than anybody else.
It will take some time for that to revert back if he can do it. That's the only thing about it.
I hope he does it.
Yeah.
Ipte. I think I pay my $5 or $10 or whatever.
Started
it is.
with $2, but yeah.
Well, you know what? I'm not even. I didn't go there.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm a fan of it.
Yeah. We'll be back on Thursday.
Maybe.
We'll continue. Maybe. See you. Bye.